Welcome to the Cosmic Compass podcast. Today, I'd like to discuss what I call the freakout words of astrology. The reason I call them freakout words is because they're kind of like trigger words in astrology, and when people hear them, they literally freak out. I feel that there's a lot of fear-mongering in astrology, and I want to debunk all of the negative hype surrounding these astrological terms and explain what they really mean and how they can be utilized for self-betterment. This is going to be a long episode. It was actually going to be even longer than it is, but I decided to be nice and spare you all. So I split it into a two-part episode. This first part will be the miscellaneous words that have people shaking in their boots, and the second part will be about the most hated zodiac signs and why they're actually not so bad. I put out a poll on Facebook on my personal page and a few astrology groups that I'm a part of for everyone to vote for the sign they believe to be the most hated. A lot of people voted for their ex's sign, which is hilarious and not a surprise, although that's not how astrology works, but, don't let your Scorpio ex fool you, because I'm sure they did fool you and manipulate you. But anyway, grab a little drinky drink, a little snacky snack, and maybe even a notepad if you want to learn some ish. Let's get to it. This first one is a no-brainer. It's the scariest word in astrology, and when people hear it, even if they have no idea what it means or what is going on, they freak out because of the negative connotation it has. You're probably guessing the word in your head right now, and chances are you're probably right. The first freakout word we're going to talk about is retrograde. Good old retrograde. Lil ol' Mercury in the Gatorade. My ex texted me, is Mercury in the microwave? It makes sense as to why retrograde has such negativity attached to it. Nobody wants their bum-ass exes texting them. Nobody wants their Wi-Fi to go out. Nobody wants their car to break down. But this is not all retrogrades are. First off, everything I mentioned are things that can possibly occur when Mercury is in retrograde, but Mercury is not the only planet that goes retrograde. Mercury does station retrograde most frequently, but there are 8 other planets. And yes, I said 8 because Pluto is a planet, especially in astrology. So if you disagree, we're breaking up right now. It has been real. Thanks for tuning in, but you gotta go. The thing about retrogrades is when a planet goes retrograde, its power diminishes. Sometimes things go haywire. Think about when you're driving on the highway. If you pick up speed and then look at all of the cars you're passing, it looks like they're moving backwards, but they're not really moving backwards. It's just that you're moving faster than them. Every planet moves around the sun in the same direction. The closer a planet is to the sun, the faster it moves in its orbit around the sun. This is what it's like from Earth when a planet stations retrograde. If we looked out the windows of Earth into the solar system, once Earth catches up and overtakes a slow-moving planet in its orbit around the sun, that planet will look like it's moving backwards. When a planet stations retrograde, it slows down. During this time, it just means that we need to slow down too. Retrograde begins with RE, so just think of all the RE words. Retrogrades are the times we need to review. The retrograde planet appears to move backwards, going back over the same place it just passed, and we should be doing the same. Look back at recent events that occurred before the retrograde. Review, review, what happened, and let it marinate. Really think about it. What can you revise, re-evaluate, or reconsider? Maybe something happened that needs your attention. Reflect, reassess, rearrange, release. Think before you react. If you do this during retrogrades, you may find that conditions can turn out to be more favorable to you than they were before. So despite the negative connotations often associated with retrogrades, they also offer up opportunities for reflection, introspection, and revisiting past issues to make necessary changes and adjustments. Retrograde periods are seen as times for reevaluation, rethinking, reassessing certain aspects of life in order to move forward with greater clarity and understanding. So overall, retrogrades in astrology serve as a reminder to slow down, reflect, and make necessary adjustments in various areas of life before moving forward with new projects or decisions. And that's really not so scary. The next astrological trigger word is karmic. I have a whole episode on karmic relationships. If you haven't already, check out episode 2 of the Cosmic Compass podcast. It's the most listened to episode of mine to date. Not that there's a lot to listen to. This is only like my 5th episode, but anyway. Karma is a term people freak out over, but it's not scary. Like, if you think about it, pretty much everything is karmic. We do things and face consequences. It's all karma. Karma is cause and effect. There are different types of karma, good and bad. If you did negative things in your past life, you'll have past life debt. Everyone has a past life, and in that past life, you probably made a promise to someone and didn't get a chance to fulfill that promise. So now you're back in this lifetime, and that person from your past life is now your sibling, and you still owe them that promise. That is your karma. Karma is not always doom and gloom. If you don't figure out your karmic debt, things may become a little tough for you, but it's not doomsday. You'll just come back in your next life with that karma. You'll keep coming back until business is finished. To chip away at finishing business, you need to start directing your energy toward good habits instead of giving energy to negative habits. If you starve your old habits, which is karma, by raising your consciousness and directing your energy and consciousness to higher aspirations. The law of attraction is used to overcome karma. And in summary, karma isn't scary, it just means that there are lessons to be learned. Along with karma, I'm going to transition in the third trigger word. So when people start getting into astrology and learning about the houses, the 12th house tends to be the one people freak out over. In astrology, the 12th house is the house of the unconscious. It sounds scary because the unconscious is unknown and nobody likes not knowing. Uncertainty just doesn't sit well with people. The 12th house has a lot to do with seclusion, self undoing, and things that we cannot control. When I first started learning about astrology, I admit I felt doomed. I have a stellium, which means 3 or more planets in my 12th house. I have my Pisces sun and Mercury and Venus in my 12th house. Being that my 12th house is ruled by Pisces, the 12th sign, it made it even more gloomy. When I started my research into the 12th house, I felt really hopeless because all I would read about is isolation, addiction, psychological issues, loss, self-undoing, absent father. People were saying the 12th house is the worst place to have planets, and I was shooketh. I thought it was all true because I resonated with the absent father. In astrology, the sun represents the father, and as I mentioned, my sun is in my 12th house, and my dad passed away when I was 10. A lot of the negative descriptions I read, I was able to relate to, so I always thought that I was doomed to suffer. But one day in my research, I came across an article that took a different approach to the 12th house. It said the 12th house is a very spiritual house, and it explained how some loss can be good. It said that the 12th house was a place of hidden insight and hidden talent. It said my dad not being part of my life was because I needed the pain of his absence to direct me. The 12th house in astrology represents a deep spiritual realm where we can connect with our inner selves and the collective unconscious. It is a house of solitude, introspection, and hidden strengths. The 12th house encourages us to explore our subconscious, face our fears, and release any past traumas or burdens that may be holding us back. It's a house of healing, forgiveness, and self-discovery. It governs creativity, compassion, and selflessness. People with strong placements in the 12th house are often very empathetic, intuitive, and they have a strong sense of intuition. They may excel in creative fields such as art, music, or spirituality. The 12th house can be painful and confusing and cause mental suffering, but these are the things that allow us to grow and evolve. The 12th house offers us the opportunity to dive deep into our psyche, uncover hidden talents, and find inner peace and spiritual fulfillment. It encourages us to let go of the past, embrace our vulnerabilities, and connect with the divine within ourselves. This is why, now that I'm a bit seasoned in astrology, the 12th house is my favorite house. I love my 12th house stellium. For the next trigger words, I combine them because they're 2 planets, Saturn and Pluto. In astrology, Saturn and Pluto are often associated with challenges, transformation, growth. Saturn is known as the planet of discipline, responsibility, and hard work, while Pluto represents power, transformation, and regeneration. While Saturn and Pluto have a reputation for being intense and sometimes difficult planetary influences, it is important to remember that they also offer opportunities for personal and spiritual growth. These planets often bring about periods of change and transformation in our lives, pushing us to face our fears, confront our limitations, and ultimately become stronger and more resilient individuals. So rather than fearing Saturn and Pluto, it's important to embrace their energies and see them as opportunities for growth and self-improvement. By facing the challenges and lessons that these planets can bring, we can learn important lessons about ourselves, our relationships, and our place in the world. Ultimately, Saturn and Pluto can be very powerful allies in our journey towards self-discovery and personal growth, reminding us that we have the strength and resilience to overcome any obstacles that come our way. By approaching these planets with an open mind and a willingness to learn, we can harness their transformative energies and use them to propel us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life. Saturn seems scary, especially when someone learns about their Saturn return. A Saturn return is an astrological transit that occurs when the planet Saturn completes its orbit around the sun and returns to the same position it was in when you were born, typically around the ages of 27 to 30 for your first Saturn return, and again at 56 to 60 for your second Saturn return. It's believed to be a period of significant growth, maturity, and transformation in one's life, as Saturn is known as the taskmaster planet, and it challenges us to take responsibility for our actions and make important life decisions. Your first Saturn return is mostly about adulting. I like to call it a quarter life crisis to be funny because of my Gemini moon. I'm pretty funny, if you haven't noticed yet. But if you're looking at your birth chart, the circle one, because if you don't know by now, by listening to my podcast, we only look at pizza pies around here and not grocery lists. But as I was saying, if you look at the line that cuts across your birth chart, the line that cuts your pizza pie in half, the line above the first house and the sixth house, that's the horizon. In ancient astrology, it is believed that if your sun is below the horizon, meaning your sun is in the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth house, your Saturn return would be more challenging than someone that has their sun above the horizon, which is the top half of the pizza pie, houses 7 through 12. If your sun is below the horizon, buckle up, buttercup, because you're fucked. Get wrecked. Okay, just kidding, sort of. To navigate a Saturn return successfully, take it from me because I've been through my Saturn return. Mine ended last year. But don't really take it from me because my sun is above the horizon. But it's important to embrace the lessons and challenges that come with this transit. So here are some tips to navigate your Saturn return. And this is where that notebook I mentioned in the beginning, the notebook, I don't remember what I said, but this is where that comes in. So get ready. Get a writing utensil. Okay, so number 1. Reflect on your past experiences and take stock of where you are in life. This is the time to reassess your goals, values, and relationships. Like I said, adulting. Number 2, take responsibility for your actions and decisions. Saturn teaches us the importance of accountability and discipline. Daddy Saturn will literally keep throwing obstacles your way until you do as he wants. So pay attention. Don't disrespect Daddy Saturn. Number 3, focus on personal growth and self-improvement. This is an excellent time to work on areas of your life that need attention, such as your career, relationships, or personal development. Number 4, embrace change and be open to new opportunities. Your Saturn return will often bring major life changes, so be willing to adapt and grow. Number 5, seek guidance from mentors, therapists, or spiritual advisors. Hello, me. Talking to someone who has gone through a Saturn return can provide valuable insight and support. Number 6, and the last one, practice self-care and prioritize your well-being. Finding ways to manage your stress and take care of yourself physically, mentally, and emotionally can help you navigate this period with grace. My Saturn return wasn't so challenging. I did mention that my sun is above the horizon, but I think the worst thing that happened since Saturn was transiting in my 11th house, since my natal Saturn is in my 11th house, my best friend moved to another state. So that happened during my Saturn return. And the best thing that happened was my son was born during my exact Saturn return. So we both have Saturn in Aquarius at 1 degree. Saturn was worse for me when it went into Pisces last year in March, because my sun is in Pisces. So Saturn was transiting my 12th house, and my Pisces sun is at 3 degrees. So it's in the very beginning of Pisces, and Saturn hit me pretty hard, pretty quick. It was a bad time. Hopefully, Saturn will be there actually for the next year or so. So hopefully it isn't as bad as that initial hit. But yeah, that was pretty tough. I know someone that's going through their Saturn return right now. It started in March of last year, and they're having a tough time. Their sun is below the horizon, but they are doing everything they need to do, which is exactly what needs to be done. That's exactly what Daddy Saturn wants. If you do what needs to be done and you do what he's trying to tell you to do, then you will make it out. Overall, the key to navigating a Saturn return successfully is to embrace the challenges and growth opportunities that it brings. Trust in the process and stay true to yourself and your values. Remember that this period is a time of transformation and building a solid foundation for the future. So there you have it. These are some of the terms in astrology that have people in a freak out frenzy. But I hope I helped you see they're not meant to be so scary. Challenges are good, and they're meant for us to evolve and grow. I hope you'll join me next time for part 2 of this episode, which will be released next week, hopefully. Until next time, my precious little star babies.